In this video, I'm going to talk about three things that skilled interviewers and people like myself who do coaching and interview training for a living can easily read about a candidate and things you would not expect if you're not doing this often. So the first thing I'd like to talk about here would be that it takes only a couple of minutes, less than 5 minutes, for 95% of candidates to see if the candidate takes the interview seriously. In other words, if the candidate prepared for this interview. Now, I'm not saying that you should prepare for your interview, because some people do not have to prepare for the interviews to pass them. But if you want to show us prepared, you should know that for a skilled interviewer, it's a matter of minutes until they realize this, right? Until they properly qualify you on someone you prepared or you did not prepare for your interview. The second thing I want to talk about here, which might be counterintuitive, especially by the type of questions you're getting asked in a job interview. Tell me about yourself, or tell me about a challenge you've had recently, or tell me something interesting about you. The point here is that there's always a reason why someone is asking you a question in a job interview. And furthermore, in most places, the questions and the order of questions getting asked in a job interview is the same for all candidates. Right? So needless to say that there is a specific interest on why they ask you a given question. But for the simplest example would be if they ask you for a time when you failed, they would ask you this because you want to see what you learned from it, or whether you can talk about failure. Right? This would be the simplest possible example here. But the other extreme here is that people do not spend time in listening exactly and trying to understand why the question got asked. People don't have listening skills. So listening skills do pay off in job interviews, but are not straightforward to build. And as I just said, the other extreme here would be that you go even further and interrupt your interviewer for saying, yeah, I know what you're saying, and stuff like that, which in my experience is quite counterproductive. And oftentimes leads to monumental mistakes for some of you. So there's always a reason why an interview question gets asked, right? So you should really take this seriously. And the third thing I want to talk about here, and this applies specifically in high-performing companies, but not only, if you take it on the general line, is that interviewers and me as an interview coach are quite bored about some of your answers because they all sound the same. The classic examples with what's your weakness, public speaking. Well, in the same way, most of you will go in the same fashion to answer your elevator pitch or a challenging project or a time when you fail with some generic type of answers, a broad, a non-specific type of answer, which, you took from somewhere, right? And since these places are quite common nowadays, these inspirational resources, what happens here is that most people will use the same type of answers in this job interview. So my point here is that if you could come up with something that is unique, peculiar, that would differentiate yourself in a job interview, that's the type of answers which tend to sell best in job interviews, right? So I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.